All right, we got another one of these guys. How did this happen? If you missed last week's, I'll post a link down below. But today we got something totally different. This is the 2019 P12 Missouri State Criterium Championships. And like last week's video, this race was captured and sent to me a long time ago. I've been sitting on it. But now that we may be getting back to racing here pretty soon, I was thinking there might be some good lessons to be learned in here, like what not to do in a sprint and how to avoid crashes. So we're picking up action here. We're super late in this race. We're inside of 1 kilometer to go. This is a breakaway group. I just love this part of the race. This is like the cat and mouse stage. You see everyone's kind of looking around. Nobody wants to take the front. The winner's going to come from this group. Now it's just a matter of who's played it the best up until this point and who's got the best legs for the finish. And you can see this guy goes for a long one. So this is like the dream situation because we're coming into the final corner here. And he's got basically a lead out here. If he can close this gap, just a couple more bike lengths, and get in this draft, then this is looking really good for him. If you're in somebody's draft at this speed, going into a headwind especially, you're doing like 50, maybe 60% of the work that they're doing. So this is super important. And with a little bit less than 200 meters to go, he takes the front, puts his head down, starts his sprint. This is looking so good for the win. You can see the finish line in the distance. And with about 50 meters from being the state champion,
No, I'm not. It's on my bike. I'm not good. Who was that?
Yeah, who was that? It's actually hard to tell from the GoPro footage because it happened so quickly. Even in the slow-mo, you can't really tell what's going on. So fortunately, I have the spectator footage, and it really tells the whole story. So I have a couple of thoughts about how this happened and whether or not it could have been prevented. So actually, I'm going to pause it right here. This is our guy. He's leading the race. He's sprinting a straight line just to get to the finish line as quickly as possible. Probably about 100 meters to go, nothing out of the ordinary. But I want you to focus on the rider to his right, who starts his sprint in a straight line, but he's just got his head down the entire time and drifts to the left, makes contact, and causes this crash. Now, I don't think it was intentional, and I hate that I even have to say this, but you gotta look where you're going. Like, you can't just put your head down and start sprinting. And he should know better, racing in the P12 field. So obviously, like 100% his fault, but is there something that the guy with the GoPro, the guy who got ran into, is there something he could have done to maybe avoid going down? And the answer is yes, actually. I didn't even notice this until I saw the fan footage, but if we rewind a little bit, take a look at this. Now, I don't think there's any way he could have prevented the contact, but his hands are on the hoods, not in the drops. That's a big no-no in the sprint, but really in any time during a race when you expect there might be contact. Like, I spend probably 90% of criteriums in the drops, and it's not just because the control is better, you're lower on the front end, it's more aero, but you also protect yourself from crashes because it's much harder for people when you're in the drops to hook your handlebars or even bang into your handlebars, and that's what ultimately causes this crash. You can tell if we go back to the GoPro footage that all it takes is one jolt on the handlebars at this speed, and you're going to be introducing yourself to the pavement real quick. And let me show you the difference. This is a race I was in a couple years back, and I take this shot from the right, from this big XXX guy. And instead of his hip hitting my handlebars, which probably would have knocked me to the ground, it hit my elbow because I was in the drops. So it's like a shock absorber. It kind of softens the blow, and I was able to keep the bike upright. And while we're looking at this footage, final couple hundred meters of a national level P12 crit, you're going to see everybody is in the drops. I don't think you're going to see a single person on the hoods. Faster, safer, just get used to riding in that position, you guys. Okay, so the key takeaways. Number one, and again, I hate that I even have to say this, but look where you're going in the sprint and make a straight line. Number two, train yourself to ride in the drops as much as possible, or at least during those critical moments in a race when you expect there might be contact. And I'll throw in an extra credit. Number three, go out with a friend and practice bump drills. So make contact with your elbows, with your shoulders. That way you're not so surprised by it when you're in a race and it happens. And if you're new, you can start on grass or you can do it at a really low speed. So I wanted to thank one more time the rider who sent in this footage. Dude is tough as nails, a little bit of road rash. He was mostly concerned about his bike. But if you have footage that you want me to take a look at, send it in, NorCalCyclingVideos@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.